In this video, we are going to be discussing how to write an equation of the line using the point-slope form. So there are several forms that a linear equation can be written in. The standard form, the slope-intercept form, the point-slope form are all common ways to write a line. The point-slope form is helpful when you're writing an equation with certain information. That means you have the slope and a random point. If you're given the slope and the intercept, the y-intercept, you can write the equation immediately in slope-intercept form. But if you're given some random point, you're going to want to use the point-slope form to do that. So that's example for number 1. We're going to write an equation of the line that passes through the point -1, 4, and it has a slope of -5. Don't let the directions fool you. So some students see that they're supposed to write it in slope-intercept form, and so they automatically try to put the equation in that form. What you really want to evaluate is the point given. This is not a y-intercept, and you know it's not the y-intercept because the x value is not 0. Remember, if you have a y-intercept, it's always 0, b. It's always 0 for the x value. So since this x value is a -1, it's not an intercept. That's going to be the clue that you might need to use the point-slope form. So what I'm going to do is write that down. Okay, and then I'm going to plug stuff in. So I have the slope, remember that that's m, and I have a point, so that could be my x1, y1. And that's what I'm going to plug in. The plain x and the plain y with no subscripts, those are what stay variables. That stays y and that stays x. The ones with the subscripts are the ones that get a number plugged in. So we will have y minus y1 is 4 is equal to m, which is -5, times x minus x1 is -1. Okay, so minus a -1. The first thing I want to do is try to take care of the two negatives with the x minus a -1. So I'm going to address that first. So y minus 4 is equal to -5, x plus 1, right? That double negative makes a plus. I'm trying to write my answer in slope-intercept form. Remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So what I'm trying to do is get the y by itself. So I had to start by using the point-slope form because of the information that I was given. But then I can transform that into the slope-intercept form. What I want to do is after I take care of any double negatives, I'm going to distribute because you're trying to get rid of the parentheses. So we will have y minus 4 is equal to -5x minus 5. And then the last step to get the y by itself is to add 4 to both sides of the equation. That'll get the y by itself. And on the right-hand side, I will have -5x, and then the -5 and the plus 4 are like terms. So when I add those together, I get -1. And that is my solution. That's my equation of the line in slope-intercept form that passes through the point -1, 4 and has a slope of -5. Okay, let's look at number 2. I guess before I look at number 2, I will give you the URL for a reference. This is what I use as reference when creating these two examples and some of the wording used above. So OpenStax College Algebra Textbook, you can get lots of more examples if you need more practice on this stuff. Okay, so number 2 passes through the points 3, -2 and 8, 1. So whenever you're writing an equation of a line, you have to have a slope. If it doesn't give you a slope in the information that it's given, that's the first thing you should do is figure out how can I find a slope given this information. The slope formula is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. If you have 2 points, you can find a slope. So I'm going to label the first point 1, so x1, y1, and the second point 2's x2, y2, and just plug those numbers in so I can find the slope. So y2 is 1 minus y1 is negative 2. x2 is 8 minus x1 is 3. So simplifying, I actually have 1 plus 2 on top. So that would be 3 over 5. 1 plus 2 is 3. 8 minus 3 is 5. So 3/5 cannot be reduced, so this is my slope. All right, so this is important. I have to have a slope and I have to have a point. Neither of these points are my y-intercept because neither of the x values are 0. It doesn't matter which one I use, so I'm just going to use the one that has both positive numbers, 8 and 1. And I use the point slope form. So y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x sub 1. And again, I used this form because I don't know the y-intercept. So I'm going to plug in what I have. Y minus y sub 1. Notice I'm using the y sub 2. It doesn't matter which point you use in this formula. So in this formula now, oops, I'm going to erase these. I can relabel these, or I don't have to label them at all. Okay, but for the purposes of this second part, I'm using this second point. Okay, y minus y sub 1 is 1 is equal to m 3/5 times x minus x sub 1 is 8. And if you wanted to use the 3, negative 2, you could have. So if you want to do it that way, you'll see that you get the same answer as I do in the end. Okay. All right, I have no double negatives. So next step, get rid of the parentheses. Since what's inside is not like, the only thing I can do is use the distributive property. So I'll have y minus 1 equals 3/5 times x is 3/5 x. 3/5 times negative 8. So you can use your calculator to figure that out, or just go over here. Remember, any number you can write as a fraction. It's over 1, right? Negative 8 divided by 1 is still negative 8. Once you do that, you just multiply straight across. So 3 times negative 8 is negative 24, and 5 times 1 is 5. I can't reduce that fraction, so negative 24 over 5 goes there. I'm trying to write it in slope-intercept form. Those were my directions. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides to get the y by itself. So y equals 3/5 x. Now I've got to add these. So negative 24/5 plus 1, so 1 over 1. To add or subtract fractions, you have to have a common denominator. So my 1 denominator, I can scale up to a 5 by multiplying it by 5. And whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So that'll give me 24/5 plus 5/5. And now since I have the same denominator, I can add and keep the bottom the same. Negative 24 plus 5, those are different signs. So actually I'm subtracting, and I'll keep the sign of the larger number, ignoring the sign. So that'll be negative 19 over 5, right? And that will not reduce, so negative 19/5 goes right there. And that is my answer.